Sometimes I like to look into what the average person thinks about Transformers to remind myself that life could be so much worse. And I'm not talking casual fans, I mean complete non-fans who have only watched a couple of the movies maybe once in their lives. You want to know the single most common complaint that the average person's distaste for the Transformers movies seems to hinge upon?
The weakest part of all the Transformers movies is and always will be the human characters.
Humans everywhere. Humans in the foreground, humans in the car seats, humans in the background, humans in the clean sheets. The live-action Transformers movies have this reputation of focusing on these boring, stinky human characters instead of the cool giant robots we all came here to see, which is a perfectly understandable complaint to have. Like the movie's called Transformers, right? I'm expecting to see Transformers of the robot variety, not the savage caveman transformation of Shia LaBeouf. But this complaint isn't limited to the movies alone. This is something that's been a dark cloud looming over the franchise for a long time now. I'm not quite sure when it started, but at some point, people started getting real sick of humans being involved in Transformers in literally any capacity. To which I say, I don't really care. Like, if they made a Transformers movie that was like 95% humans and 5% robots, and the human side of the movie was like Godzilla -1, I don't really think I have much to complain about. Humans can be just as interesting as any other aspect of the movie or show or whatever. It doesn't matter. The problem lies in the fact that more often than not, the human side of Transformers is just very mid. A lot of Transformers stories feature humans, and most of the time, I just find them really uninteresting. This isn't me saying I want constant robots all the time, because I don't. I just want whatever is happening to be, you know, interesting and fun. Of course, there are exceptions. Charlie's whole story in Bumblebee was great. Noah's story in Rise of the Beasts, while a little messy, was carried by a pretty strong performance by Anthony Ramos. Transformers Animated has Sari Sumdak, but I don't know if that counts really. I mean, it does, but like, you know. Transformers Prime has Agent Fowler, who's a goat, actually. Earth Spark's Molto family is pretty fun, and I like them a lot, I really do. I liked Verity's whole thing in IDW, and the current Skybound run has some really great human stuff too. Outside of these examples, I just never vibe with humans too much. I understand why they're there, obviously. They're audience surrogates, and discovering the Transformers through the eyes of a human is relatable and an easy way to dispense information to the viewer. And I think that's part of the issue. In some of the shows, the humans spend a lot of the time just existing just so the robots have somebody to dump exposition onto to keep the audience up to speed. I don't know, man. A lot of the time, the humans feel so second fiddle to the robots that they don't get a lot of fleshing out. And then it gets boring, and then that's when you start begging for a cool robot to show up to give you something to gawk at. It seems a lot of the general public feels the same way, but the key difference between my feelings and the feelings of all those weirdos on Reddit is that for some people, a Transformers story hinges so heavily on a human's involvement that it becomes an immediate red flag for them to see humans in any capacity in Transformers. I can understand why they might feel that way, given the reputation of Sam Witwicky and Cade Stapler, but there's plenty of good human stories in Transformers too. Variety is the spice of life. And I can see people getting sick and tired of Earth-centric Transformers stories. But honestly, Transformers kinda needs humans. Yeah, I've spent the last minute or so saying how they suck most of the time, but that's who I am. I'm a wild card. I can never let you know my next move. That's why my next video is going to be about the tree in my yard that tells me the lottery numbers. Eliminating humans from the equation altogether, to me, shuts the doors for a lot of potentially really interesting stories. The kinds of stories that allow for the growth of our heroes and the exploration of our villains' malice. I'm not saying a story with nothing but the Transformers can't be good, because it can be. More than meets the eye, Transformers 1, Cyberverse, Beast Wars technically, but the desire for no more humans ever again, to me, kinda misses one of the core appeals of Transformers. Things we're familiar with turning into big scary robots. The franchise's tagline is literally robots in disguise. They're disguised as things you see on Earth. How can they be disguised on Cybertron? Oh, okay, fair enough. If you saw my way too long Rise of the Beast video, I talked about the whole reason they made Transformers live action in the first place, which was to create the spectacle of these big, scary, photorealistic robots in a setting that you recognize. Like, inherently, doesn't that sound cool? The tangible, real-world setting getting blown the fuck up is what made those first few movies so successful. You could argue, well, you don't need human characters. You can still have them on Earth without all this human stuff. Well, you could, but that doesn't mean you should, right? right? To me, you need that perspective. Without that human element, these real-world environments become nothing more than battlefields. This doesn't just apply to live action anymore, this is all Transformers. You need that human context, how the robots fit into the day-to-day lives of the humans they're protecting. Imagine Superman, but he never leaves the Fortress of Solitude. He never meets Lois Lane, he never works at the Daily Planet. He just sits in his ice palace until the world needs him. That removes what makes Superman Superman. His connection to the people of Earth, his relationship with his co-workers, and the dual identity of Clark Kent and Superman are the three fundamental pillars of his story. Apply that to Transformers. The Autobots never engage with humans and never leave their base until the Decepticons attack. Or hell, the Autobots just never go off-world at all. It's just one big war on Cybertron. Could that be interesting? Sure, but think about how many stories we're missing out on by not having them leave in the first place.
The movie is Transformers, so I want to see more Transformers.
I didn't really like IDW's second Transformers run. Maybe I'm just salty about a continuity I loved being suddenly usurped, but abruptly hitting the brakes and restarting the universe was not what those comics needed at that time. But something I really liked in IDW 2 was the exploration of how organic aliens in the wider universe affect the Transformers. In IDW 2, Cybertron has taken in organic alien refugees after their planet was destroyed in a war. There's this whole thing in the run where the Autobots come to realize that their existence, their almost immortal lifespans, gives them the duty to protect other peoples and planets far less fortunate than they are. That realization and that key component of Optimus Prime's character wouldn't have come to fruition without having organic aliens here. They never get to Earth in IDW 2, but the point still stands. This is a story that could only be told with characters that aren't from Cybertron. A lot of very meaningful retrospective analysis of the Transformers and their war can come from having them engage with people that aren't their own. The recent Skybound run also uses its Earth setting to deconstruct the character of Optimus Prime in a way I haven't really seen done before, by making him younger and a little more naive as he comes to terms with this new world he's made his war zone. I kinda don't want to spoil it because it's schmo good, and if you don't read it, you're a pussy ass. Transformers Earthspark uses its Earth setting to tackle themes of immigration, belonging, and the othering of people. Again, could this be done on Cybertron? Probably, but having the Transformers themselves as the immigrants being vilified gives us another window into the Transformers war and their purpose in the universe. Mirroring IDW 2, this time the Transformers aren't the ones protecting the asylum seekers, they're the ones who need a home. Optimus Prime and all your favorite guys came to Earth seeking a home and brought their catastrophic war with them. How does Earth react to this? Do humans have a right to help the Autobots in a war that isn't their own? These are questions Transformers have been asking for a long ass time. They even did it in the Bay movies. These themes, these questions of morality and privilege and freedom being the right of all sentient beings, that's why Transformers is set on Earth all the time. One more time, you could totally have a story with no humans in it be the most peak thing ever. I'm not gonna give Key and Carlisle shit for making Transformers Combaticons and not having a pesky little human character dancing around their feet, but humans just offer so much more substance and layered dynamics that just having the robots alone wouldn't be able to offer. Do all Transformers stories with humans in them tackle these heavy themes? No, not really. A lot of the time humans are just sidekicks and that can be fine, but I think that's part of the reason why people feel they can be so pointless sometimes. Those examples I mentioned of humans and organics being used as an examination of deeper themes are few and far between. There's more Transformers stories that just have humans be vapid audience surrogates that don't offer anything entirely meaningful. I'm not saying every time the Transformers go to Earth there has to be a thesis paper written on why Optimus Prime should disband the IRS. I'm just saying that an Earth setting is kind of what Transformers was made for. Not just because they turn into Earth vehicles and that's kind of one of the appeals of it all, but because the franchise has always been about the relationship between the robots and the humans in one way or another. I just feel the Transformers being on unfamiliar ground, protecting a race who can't fend for themselves and cursing them with their own giant robot baggage allows for far more interesting stories than ones where they're forever alone on Cybertron fighting their own endless war in a bubble. It's why I'm curious about where they're going with the Transformers 1 sequel, because I don't really know if they could explore many more concepts that don't hinge on and revolve around the Optimus Prime and Megatron relationship. Like, that's cool and everything, I'd love a Toxic Yowie trilogy, but there's a lot more we could be doing here. Or maybe this video will age really badly in 4 or 5 years time because Transformers 1-2 will be out and be really good and make me eat my words. I think I've said my piece here. So I want to end this with a question. When you were a kid playing Transformers on the playground, who did you play as? I asked this question on Twitter and the response was overwhelming. Kids don't want to play as a human, they want to play as Optimus Prime or Bumblebee or Megatron. You could make the argument that kids don't really care about humans in Transformers at all. And you're probably right. Maybe I should shut my mouth and see what the kids have to say. I don't know. If you know a child, please ask them what they think of humans in Transformers. Not in a creepy way, obviously. Don't be a weirdo. I've met a lot of Transformers fans. Some of you do not look friendly.
Oh, he's gross.
This is unscripted. This isn't on the page right now. I just want to tell this story. When I was like 10 or 11, we were playing Transformers on the playground. I was playing Transformers Animated. But the other kids were playing Transformers Prime, but like they're all the same thing, so like, you know, we could play together. I was like, I want to be Bumblebee. And this big fucking fat kid I didn't like was like, no, I want to be Bumblebee. And I told this kid to his face, no, you're going to be Bulkhead. I still remember that kid's name. It was I didn't like him very much. And if he finds this video, I'd be very curious to see if he still holds that grudge from when we were in middle school and I told him he had to play as the fat Transformer, based off of his own physical appearance. Anyway, comment below if you think this was a justified thing for me to do as a child to this other kid whose life I ruined by always associating him with Bulkhead Transformers. At least it's not Bay vs. Hound.